again.
Distinguished colleagues, I've just been informed by the clerk that the Inspector General of Police is not here, or anybody in his team is here. So I think we need to decide on the next line of action.
And Ibrahim Idris's failure to show drew the condemnation of the obviously angered lawmakers.
I personally feel that public officers should do what is in the interest of the public, and where any public officer feels he cannot do what is in the interest of the public, then there is no need for such an officer to continue to occupy that kind of office.
With the conduct of the Chief Law Officer of the Federation of Nigeria is nothing but an abuse of power. He has no respect for this institution. That is now a fact.
Today, Mr. President, what the IG is doing is not against the Senate. I think he's doing it against the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Some people might not come out to tell us their weaknesses. Either they don't have the capacity to withstand this Senate or whatever. Now, this clearly explains one's lack of capacity to even serve in a position like that.
The Red Chamber went into a closed-door session for over 30 minutes, after which the Senate President read out the decision taken.
And also know that his earlier refusal to appear before the investigative committee was overruled by a competent court of jurisdiction just in April of this year. The Senate therefore viewed this persistent refusal as a great danger to our democracy. Therefore, the Senate resolved to declare the IGP as an enemy of democracy and not fit to hold any public office within and outside Nigeria. The leadership of the Senate was also mandated to look into the matter for further necessary action.
The decision of the Senate on the police board seemed to have fallen short of what was expected, and this therefore leaves journalists wondering if this is not another Hamid Ali episode playing out yet again.
The issue of the customs boss is something different, more or less like administrative. Okay? The issue of Magu is procedural, and we have made our point. And he remains up to today, what? Acting. That's what they said. So, let's get that clear. But as far as this issue is concerned, it's about the Senate inviting the IGP in furtherance of its responsibility as enshrined under the Constitution with respect to investigation, and to also know what is happening with respect to killings.
With the killings in the country still ongoing and Dino Melaye's fate hanging in the balance, it remains very clear the last had not been heard of the Senate IGP impasse.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. And just joining us on the show today is Barrister John Wokedi. You're welcome.
It's my pleasure, Julius. I greet you.
Okay, I'll start with you then. For a while now, the IG and the Senate in particular has had a running battle lately over the arrest of Dino Melaye and the way he was handled. Also, the invasion of its chambers by thugs, where the mace, the symbol of authority, was stolen, and particularly the spate of killings going on in the country. He had failed to honor 2 previous summons, and that of Tuesday was the 3rd, in which he still failed to appear before the Senate. And now the Senate has gone ahead to declare him an enemy of democracy and unfit to hold public office. Is that declaration, okay, let me just not give my own opinion then. What do you feel about this particular declaration? Is it rather too extreme? How do you feel? Barrister Wogidi, yeah.
I believe, like our learned Silk said, Femi Falana, that the Senate at the bodies reposed with the power to amend the laws. I mean, have certain things done in respect of any lacuna or vacuum in the Constitution. Because presently, the Senate will have, this present administration has reduced the Senate to just a barking dog that can seldom bite. And we have seen their helplessness in so many issues. Even the case of Magu is still there. 3 times rejection, and the executive refused blatantly to act. Because the essence of National Assembly is that when they pass a resolution, the executive implements, executes. That's what they call the executives. These are the lawmakers. They don't execute. But anything they pass that is in line with the procedure of the Senate and in line with the provisions of the Constitution must be complied with by the executive. They must enforce it. They must obey. But now, from what we are seeing, it's something different. And that is actually endangering our democracy. So if you see the level of vituperation, the outburst from the Senate over the issue, I mean, of the IG of police, it has gone to show that they can't do any other thing. They can't beat him up. They can't arrest him. They can't send him to jail. Whatever they must do must be in consonance with the powers of the executive that will now step in at this level to compel him, because he's an officer of the law and an employee of the president.
Yeah.
But the Senate cannot compel him on certain things, force him to do whatever he fails not to do, except if the presidency intervenes. I have not seen them doing that. So they have declared him unfit, an enemy of democracy, and unfit to hold the post even within and outside the country. But of what effect is that declaration? Has that made him to resign? Has that made him to be relieved of that office? Has that made him to not to carry on as if nothing has happened?
Yes.
So we are desecrating that institution. The mistake people make is that they believe because because of the emergence of the senior leadership, they may not be in tandem or whatever, in consonance or whatever with the whims and caprices of the members of the party, of the party. But the institution is what we are looking at, and we are setting a dangerous precedent that may devour us in the near future, because we have 3 arms of government, and each must function independently, must function separately, must function in a very, very respectful manner, and must function in a way that will signify dignity, that will signify honor, that will signify respect from the citizens. But where a certain arm of government is trying to prove that maybe without those, the other arm cannot function, or they will be helpless, it portends something so dangerous to our democracy.
All right, Barrister Modele, what's your take?
The invitation sent by the Senate, I think what the Senate has done amounts to sitting as an arbiter in an issue that affects the Senate, in the sense that Dino Melaye is a senator of the country, and the issue affects the said senator, and the Senate members have sympathy for their member, now inviting the IG to honor them. The question is this: can the Senate adjudicate or investigate or legislate on the issue that affects it?
What about the issue of the spate of killings going on?
Well, if it were the spate of killings,
one of the issues. It's also attached to the reason why the IGP was summoned.
Well, if it were a spate of killings, let's hold on to that area first.
Okay.
But on the issue of Dino Melaye, there is a principle that says Nemo Judes Inca Shua. You cannot be a judge in your own cause. Now, before the incident of Dino Melaye, the rate or the level at which the IG is being invited is not as pronounced until after the senator had issues with the police. So now, what are we saying? Does the Senate wakes up when the incident of Dinomilai happened, or when the incident of incessant killings started? So, to me and my mind, the current Senate is trying to be beaten about the bush. If they invite the IG, he does not honor it. The third arm of the government is there. Approach it for necessary action. I could see or read it in newspaper and watching some media houses that they visited the president. You are reporting an appointee to an appointer. What do you think will happen? Can something substantial come out of it? I think it's nothing. After being reported to the president, I think subsequent invitation was sent to the man. He did not honor it. You are reporting an appointee to his appointer. What will happen? Nothing will happen. They should approach the court for necessary constitutional interpretation. I believe if the court makes pronouncement, there will be more proactive action and steps to be taken in respect of whether he's invited, he doesn't honor it, whether they have power to invite him or not having power to invite him. I think the best forum to be approved is the court of law. And the court will, I think this is a matter that will come under urgency, that will be had expeditiously and be determined. Now, if it is determined and the court pronounces and says, the Senate has power to invite this man, if he fails to invite, if he fails to honor it, this is what will be done. Nothing of such is done. They go to media houses, they are visiting the president. Visit for what? What are they visiting the president for?
All right, then, Barrister Modili. Now, Barrister Munen, still in line with what Barrister Modili is saying, the Nigerian Police Force on Thursday described the Senate declaration of the IGP as incompetent and unfit to hold public office as laughable. The Commissioner of Police in charge of legal unit, David Ubodo, stated this. He said, I don't think, I'm quoting his words, he said, I don't think the Senate of Nigeria has the constitutional power to declare the IGP unfit to hold the office. And on what basis are they declaring him unfit to hold office? And he's asking, did the IGP go to them for confirmation of appointment, or what is it? So we'll start with that, the question he asks about the legality or the constitutional powers vested on the Senate to declare an IGP who they did not confirm his appointment. What powers they then have to declare such a person unfit?
Very well, Judith. You see, it's like our Senate is unable to learn from the past. Mukede, my colleague, has said that out of frustration, they are doing what they are doing now. You see, the Senate invited the IGP sometime earlier this year, and the man rushed to the Federal High Court to declare the invitation null and void and to enforce his fundamental human rights. The Federal High Court held that the Senate has the power to invite him. He dismissed the fundamental human rights was dismissed. That the Senate has the power, the National Assembly has the power under Section 88 of the Constitution to invite anybody to testify before it. You understand? And then there are several other decided authorities. One is, it was decided in 1983 under the 1979 Constitution. And that was under Section 82 of the 1979 Constitution. That particular section is in pari materia with Section 88 of the 1999 Constitution. In that case, in the case of Senate of National Assembly against Momo, Momo was invited because he wanted to publish a particular material against the National Assembly. And they invited him. He refused to go and he rushed to the court. And he moved from the High Court to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal, held by Honorable Justice Nameka Agu, as he then was, held that the National Assembly or the Senate has the power to invite anybody in Nigeria to testify before it. But this power is limited. You must fulfill certain conditions. first of all, there must have been maybe a committee that was set up, because the entire National Assembly and Senate cannot invite him to, cannot constitute himself into a committee. A committee must have been set up based on the provisions of the Constitution that this is what is going to happen. That setting up of the committee is provided for under Section 3 and 4 of the House of Assembly, National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, Cap L12 of 2004. It is provided that whenever there is any issue of any national issue, that the National Assembly or the Senate has a power, the House of Representatives or Senate has a power to set up a committee to investigate. But this investigation is limited to either going to make a law that will strengthen the institution, or to correct or to expose corruption and other vices. These are provided for under sections 88 and 89 of the present Constitution.
So in this particular instance, does the Senate have the power?
That's what I'm saying. The Senate has the power to invite.
The IGP.
But very well. But the challenge is that the Senate has not actually fulfilled the conditions precedent for the invitation. You understand? Please, just give me permission to read this section 88 of the Constitution, so that even those that are at home can also appraise what the Constitution says. It says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, each House of the National Assembly shall have power by resolution published in its journal or in the official gazette of the government of the Federation to direct or cause to be directed an investigation into any matter or thing with respect to which it has power to make laws, and B, the conduct of affairs of any person, authority, ministry, or government department charged or intended to be charged with the duty or responsibility for executing on the ministry laws enacted by the National Assembly. Now, it says, the powers conferred on the National Assembly under the provision of these sections are exercisable only for the purpose of enabling it to A, make laws with respect to any matter within its legislative competence and correct any defects in existing laws. B, expose corruption, inefficiency, or waste in the execution or administration of laws within its legislative competence and in the disbursement or administration of funds appropriated by it. Now, that is the section that gives right for the National Assembly to carry out investigation into issues. Now, to summon, Section 89. It says, for the purpose of any investigation under Section 88 of this Constitution and subject to the provisions thereof, the Senate or the House of Representatives of a committee or a committee appointed in accordance with Section 62 of this Constitution shall have power to A, procure all such evidence, written or oral, direct or circumstantial, as it may think necessary or desirable, and examine all persons as witnesses whose evidence may be material or relevant to the subject matter. Now, it says, see, summon any person in Nigeria to give evidence at any place or produce any document or other things in his position. So when you read all this together, you now realize that the Senate has the power to summon, to investigate first, and then to summon somebody to appear before either the committee or whatever to give evidence. But the evidence must be stated, first of all, the condition that must be met is that there must have been a resolution published in its journal or the official gazette. There was no such resolution that was published. That is one. Two, it must be for the purpose of making a law to either strengthen the institution or to resolve certain issues. But this is not the case here. The only thing is that from the aspect of the killings in Benue State and other parts of Nigeria, I think somebody might justify the invitation in that respect to the point that maybe they want to either expose corruption or to make law to strengthen, to strengthen that. So that is where I would say that in that aspect, the Senate has all the right to invite the IG to come and testify or give evidence as to what is really going on. Now the challenge is, because the IG knows that the Senate does not have the power to remove him. That's the problem. He does not feel that he is answerable to the Senate. But that is too bad. That is wrong. That is a wrong perception. And anybody that feels that the Senate has no power should go and reread these sections 88 and 89, which has actually been interpreted. Section 88 has been interpreted, and both sections have been interpreted in the case that I have, the cases that I have cited. You understand? Right. So it is important for us to know that if the Senate has invited anybody in Nigeria, the person has to respect and obey that invitation. Go there and explain whatever. The Senate is not going to consume you, is not going to eat you up. The executive is the only arm that has the capacity to actually discipline the IG, to either remove him, suspend him, and whatever, because he's an appointer. He can also dismiss and or suspend and whatever he wants to do. But in this administration, we have all seen, we are witnesses to the fact that even the president himself is unable to discipline the IGP. And that was why when he went to Benue State, he said he did not even know that this man did not relocate to Benue State as he had directed. And then when he made that statement, everybody expected, the president is going to discipline. For where? Nothing has happened. And that is why the man is behaving this way.
All right, while you've really set that particular section of the Constitution straight, yes. Now, the IGP, even under the Constitution and under the Police Act, has the power to delegate his line officers to represent him on an official function. You will recall that the Senate had also rejected a DIG who he gave the brief to go represent him when he went on an official trip with the president to Bauchi State. So what do you make of that too?
In that aspect of the law, that's the police law. It's not the Constitution. We are following the Constitution. He was invited in person. Draw a distinction there. The Senate did not invite the police force, Nigerian police. Okay. The Senate invited Inspector General of Police, and someone is holding that office. If the Senate is dealing with the police as an institution, then the IGP can delegate anybody to represent the police. Okay. But the Senate specifically invited the Inspector General of Police, and someone is the occupant of that office. And that person is the person that Senate looks up to hear from, to give them clarifications, to explain issues. Not that he delegated the power to someone that will act on his behalf, that tomorrow the person might say that maybe I held the brief of my boss. IGP might say the man went there and said what he was not ought to say, or he was not properly briefed, although he was defending it, saying that he has a brief, he knows everything about that. The Senate acted in persona, not in rem, in person. So what the Senate president should have done, although he has official function with the president, he may not be disposed, but he will give the Senate a time within which he will come and explain himself. And the Senate officer, when Senate invites a person, that doesn't mean they are adjudicating. That doesn't mean they are taking the position of the law court. There's someone to hear from you. You explain. You give clarifications. In the process, you can even convince the Senate that you acted, you didn't act mala fide. You acted in good faith. You will elaborate whatever action that has taken place under your ministry, under your administration, under your whatever duty, occupation, obligation assigned to you. So people see Senate invitation as an indictment. Some people see it as Senate adjudicating over an issue. They see that Senate taking over the place of the courts. No! That's where some Nigerians are making mistakes. This is a place, come and explain to us in this area. You know much about this area. Something happened in this area. We may not know. We have so and so rumor. We have so and so propaganda, this and that going on. Come and explain to us. Let us hear from you. Yeah. After that explanation, he might go home with an applause. Senate might clap for him. From there, Nigerians will also know what has been going on. People understand it as an indictment, as a victimization, as whatever, revenge or whatever. Even if Melaya has been molested, like our Leonard's senior counsel with this respect, Falana was saying that Dina Melaya, the only person that has been molested. For goodness sake, in criminal law, it doesn't matter how many times a crime has been committed. You took over a crime. You cannot stay policeman because they have been raping people in these streets and they have not come. Why should they now come and arrest somebody for raping people? It has no place in criminal proceedings. I can't say because rape has been going on in these streets and police people knew. Why should now Mr. Wale or Mr. Okeke or Mr. Hazan now rape today and police now come today to come and arrest? Why haven't they arrested before? No. In criminal matter, which all of us are, we are all lawyers, practicing lawyers. Anybody, you can start from anywhere. So if Dino Melaye has been treated in a very, detestable, in an inhuman kind of maybe treatment, and he's a senator, and he is their member also, and the senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for goodness sake, he's not an ordinary citizen, whether we like it or not, whether we will say everybody is equal or not, we must clear some certain issues. A senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is an image of this country. If you have been watching House of Lords in UK and Senate in America sitting, you know what? You know the kind of respect they give to that kind, even in South Africa. Then such a person is being handled anyhow, and the colleagues say, come and explain to us. They didn't say you are under arrest. They didn't even sue you to court. They didn't even tell court to order warrant to arrest you for treating our member. They say, come and explain to us. Then if you know you have law at your tips and you have the laws backing your action, why being afraid? Why being scared? Why calling lawyers here and they come and speak on your behalf? Why delegating somebody? Go there, explain yourself. They say a clear conscience fears no accusation. And what's the other aspect of his rate of killings? Yes, my colleague might say that maybe they did not adhere to internal procedures of inaugurating committee, but they came up with publication to show the level of killings, and that thing has been going on in social media. The spate of killings, a lot of people dying here and there, and that will also warrant, invitation. If you know you have been working, because if you read that section, section 880, just try that. If you read section 4, because that section 8 was derived from section 4 of the Constitution. Because the Senate has the power to make laws for peace, order, and good governance of any part of Nigeria, any place in Nigeria, or any part thereof. And that's where that section 8.9 derived the authority. That they have the powers to summon anybody within the confines of the places they have the right to make the laws. Let me just even read section 4. It's fair they derive that power. They have the right to make laws. And from there down, you go to section 8.8. So if somebody makes a law and somebody is not violating that, look at it. It says that. You see, let me just read it. The legislative powers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be vested at the National Assembly for the Federal, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. The National Assembly shall have power to make laws for the peace, order, and good government of the Federation or any part thereof, with respect to any matter included in the executive exclusive list, set up part 1 of the second schedule of this Constitution. Then read section 88. Then that's section 88. Now read it. It now says, any matter or thing with respect to which it has powers to make laws. 8811A. Any power, any matter or thing which it has powers to make laws. So it was derived from section 4. Then that's section 88. They have powers to make law and security. They have powers to make law guarding the nation, the peace, order. And the issue people are coming under that it must be corruption. It's inefficiency. There is likelihood of corruption is part of it. People don't go ahead to give a blanket interpretation as if it's only exclusively related to corruption. It's inefficiencies there too. My colleagues read it. Or may still read for people to even see it. There have been the arguments flying around everywhere. That is it must be corruption. It says expose corruption. That is comma. There is a comma there. Expose corruption, comma. Inefficiency or worst in the execution and administration of law within its legislative competence. Corruption, comma. Are we not English students? So people go ahead and start telling people it must be on corruption. Corruption, comma, inefficiency. We have killings in Taraba, we have killings in Benue, we have better killings in many parts of Southern Kaduna, so many places. Does not show inefficiency in the security of the nation, who is at the helm of affairs of security and agents or IGP of police. So if there is any likelihood of inefficiency, can they invite you? It's not within the confines of the Constitution. Why are we misinterpreting this law, confusing the people?
You might even respect the invitation and decide not to talk on a particular issue.
And one of the people, one of the lawyers, and you said even if they pose the question within a matter that is in court, like Dino Melaye's issue,
Yes.
You can't just sit at your home and say they're talking about. Go there and say, with due respect, our national. This matter is already in court. I acted in good faith. Look at what I did. Look at how many times Dinumilai was invited. Look at the summons issued to him. Even at a point, we even sent invitation to even this National Assembly. Look at the copy of that invitation was acknowledged. Show them all these things. Then, in the absence of his appearance at the appropriate time, we decided to pick him up. That is, we agreed the powers of police that gave you power to arrest anybody. And we exercised that, but just like when they arrest Senate President Ekwemada and Saraki. I think the issue came up like this. I was in a media station, and the IGP Malami, SAN, they refused to go to the Senate to go and explain why he arraigned Ike Ekwemada and Saraki. I was invited. I was saying, why is Malami afraid of going to the Senate? After all, Malami is not the IGP of police. Arase was the IGP of police then. Arase investigated the matter and said that the course of action has arisen and dropped it at the table at the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. What then has AG to do? The AG should exercise the duties of the functions of his office by arraigning them. That doesn't mean he has convicted them. I don't know why he was fearing the Senate. Go there and tell them, look, I'm not the one that investigated this matter. It was investigated by IGP, and he handed the case file in my office, and the minute that a course of action has arisen, am I going to dump the file there? I had to do my work as Attorney General of the Federation, and I arraigned them. It's left for court now to either convict them or set them free. And eventually that man rushed to Senate and said exactly what, I don't know why he had me, and said that was the end of that matter. And he went home. He went back home. If you know that you have laws at your teeth that will back up your action, why being afraid? Do they have guns? Are you an IGP of police that will come with entourage of halos of police officers that will surround the Senate? Can they beat you up? Go there and express yourself and come back. All this drama everywhere. It's becoming unnecessary.
All right, still on reactions following the Senate declaration, the Force Public Relations Officer, Jimo Moshood, an Assistant Commissioner of Police, in a statement said, it is urgently imperative that the Nigerian Police Force respond to this resolution of the Senate, which is a deliberate blackmail, witch-hunting, unfortunate, and mischievous. He said the Nigerian Police Force therefore owes no apology to any individual or groups in its effort to ensure the preservation of law and order, the supremacy of the law of the land, and make sure that all Nigerians are subject to the same law, no matter what their position is in the society. The statement went further to say the Inspector General of Police and the Nigerian Police Force will not be deterred by blackmail from any individual or group, no matter how highly placed, from the enforcement of law and order and ensuring that the rule of law prevails. Barrister Modili, what do you make of this particular statement?
You see, the spokesman for the police is conveying to the world what his master told him to do. So he didn't just went on there. His boss, #1 police officer, must have instructed and directed him to act so. Now, it is a simple logic. If you study or look at the composition of the Nigerian police since the present administration came to power, particularly in police affairs, you will discover that there are wrongs here and there. Then there is a kind of lack of respect to each arm of the government, particularly when it comes to the executive arm, police in quote, and the National Assembly or the legislative arm. Now, you see, majority of the security paraphernalia attached to the National Assembly, they are the police officers, be the DSS, be the SSS, be the policemen. Now, looking at these ways, these senators or the legislators, they are one way or the other close to the police system, which on the one hand, the #1 police officer has his own caucus within them, which I believe he will have his own caucus with them. And these ones must have been people supporting him. Aside from that, in the executive arm of the government, he also has his own supporters. Now, the question is this. How do we marry all these things together? It is a bit dicey. The legislative arm of the government to make law for good governance of the country, fine. The executive arm to do what is necessary, the judiciary to interpret what the law says. Now, in a situation like this, I said it earlier, the best forum to approach is to approach the court for necessary interpretation and to serve as a precedent in the judicial arm of the government. If interpretation is sought and is adequately interpreted from the lower court to the apex court, then this situation will not arise again. If such is not done, it will keep on arising. You see now, a policeman just woke up at a Louis Edet house there in Abuja and wrote whatever he likes, went to the media, and indirectly tongue-lashing. That is the language I use.
It's quite terse.
Yes.
I agree.
Tongue-lashing.
The statement is quite terse.
Tongue-lashing educated persons. And the number one lawmakers, I think I can regard them as the lawmaking body.
Yes.
And I can say second to none to the country. Because when you pick the executive, you pick the legislature, then who next?
Judiciary.
The judiciary. Now, a police officer just woke up there at the third floor in Louis Edet house there and wrote all those kind of stories written on the paper, which I read on the online media. It's funny. It is strange. There should be courtesy. You see, respect is reciprocal. The Senate or the legislative arm should respect the executive. Executive should respect the legislature. Not that you think you should be the person to be so respected. Now, what the police had done, on the one hand, is not fair. On the other hand, it is bad. But I would advise the legislative arm of the government to quickly approach the appropriate court of law and seek judicial interpretation of the provisions of the law as to the powers of the National Assembly to make law for good governance of the country, to invite and not to invite. Once there is interpretation of those sections of the law, then we kick starting from there.
But I think I have said that there is a judicial interpretation. Even in this current section 88 and 89, it was interpreted in El Rufai against House of Representatives in 2003, when El Rufai went to court to find out, to stop the House of Representatives from inviting him to come and explain certain issues. The House of Representatives the court in interpreting section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution held that the National Assembly has the right, has the power, constitutional power to invite you to come to the House and explain. But the National Assembly has to also comply with the conditions precedent. The only challenge I have with the National Assembly is that very many times when they invite these people, they don't comply with the conditions. And once you don't comply with the conditions, if you take the matter to court, the court will squash it. But if you are going for the purpose of interpretation, it is already there that the National Assembly has the power constitutionally provided for to invite and to investigate.
Well, if interpretation has been done,
yes,
the National Assembly, it has legal teams. They should raise the legal team. They know what to do.
Very well.
All right.
They know what to do.
What I even have to say. That was why I said there's a lacuna.
Okay.
That lacuna is what happens if the person fails to appear. That's what the court did not make any pronouncement.
Yes.
Court did not make any pronouncement in that respect.
But there
That's a vacuum. That's what,
there's a provision that the National Assembly can issue a warrant to summons
to arrest.
And that the police are the ones to execute.
That's where that lacuna is. That's where that lacuna. You know about that section. But the lacuna now is who arrests the police and who arrests the president. Because ordinary man in the street that not even go to school asked me that question. It was a very big issue for me. An ordinary man in the street, not educated at all. He said the law, people said that Senate can invite anybody. If they go invite president, come. If the president no come, who go arrest the president? I couldn't answer. He said, they say president has immunity. Can you take him to court? Who arrests him? So president may choose to come or not to come. Now, what will the Senate do?
And the police too.
And police too.
Especially, yes.
And police
like
too.
now that is the IGP.
IGP, who arrest. That's where that lacuna is.
That
is where that lacuna is. There should be a clear pronouncement on that issue. As regards what happens.
In a situation
where they invite you, or where Senate rejects your nomination for like a period of 3 or 4 times, or whichever times, can that person still act? There was no pronouncement. The law is silent on these areas.
There are certain provisions of the Constitution that need to be
that's why I made
amended.
mention of what the learned Sefana said, that they are the lawmakers, that they should know what to do. But why trying to legislate on that they should not make a law that might be ridiculous, trying to protect their interests. Fana made mention of something like that in person. He said they should accept his sympathy. But though I'm not in agreement with the whole issues he canvassed, but he made mention of the fact that they can repeal the laws, they can amend the law, they know what to do. They say that is a very big lacuna. In as much as that issue is not addressed, Senate will remain a toothless bulldog.
I think a challenge now lies before the National Assembly to look into some of our laws, some that needs amendments. It should be done fast.
If you are invited for 3 times, you did not show up, then you automatically lose that office. Then after 3 times he did not show up, he will cease to be the IGP. Whether he lies under the law, he will cease to be the IGP. Not even the presidency can help him, because it will now become a constitutional matter. Now, if you cease to answer them for like 3 times, then you cease to be.
All right, but what do you think the executive can do in this particular situation?
You see, our laws should be updated at interval.
Yes.
Now, it's more or less like this, what do you call it, telecommunication. You see that there are some, in those days when MTN and Econet came, they were giving us SIM card, big one, but now they have what we call microchips.
Yes.
So I think the law should be updated to cope with future challenges. Now, I'm sorry to say this. We lawyers, we read the law. We think what the law is. We try to read meanings to it. Now, what this IG is doing, with due respect, I'm sorry to say this. Some lawyers, he must have gathered some lawyers who must have even been paid to advise and not to advise. They must have had 1 or 2 lacunas, which they say, if this happens, this is what we do. If this happens, this is what we do. That's exactly what is happening. Then the National Assembly is up to them. They should raise the memo, amend the law, so that you come with future challenges, so that this type of situation will not occur.
That's all.
But they will not do that because they have their own selfish interests.
Apart from that, you see, amendment of the Constitution is actually very difficult, because you discover that
not only the Constitution, they can even amend the Police Act.
Police Act.
You see, we discover that when the National Assembly sent the bill in respect of reordering the sequence of elections, there were several other issues that were in that bill. But because the reordering of the sequence of the election was paramount in the mind of the president, he refused assent. And when it was returned for them to override that assent, issues came up and they started fighting themselves. Because once the executive is not in line or is not in agreement with a particular thing, because they have camps, people that are in favor, and all that, yes. There will be confusion and all that. Up to now, that issue had been stayed. And this one rushed to the court to obtain an injunction and all manner of things. You understand? So these are the issues that we discover that the National Assembly is facing in respect of making laws. Any law that is not intended or does not support a particular, the body language of a particular president or whosoever.
That's a problem, you agree?
And good laws will not support their body language.
Very well.
Good laws that will move the nation will never support the body language of a president. Yes. Because issues will keep on coming up. And the issues might not be palatable for the sitting president, but it might be for the masses. It will be for the masses. But masses come up with, the status quo always favor the sitting president. So whenever there is issue, just to either curb their excesses or reduce their power and give more powers to the people. And in that circumstance, they won't agree. So what we now do? But then there must be a way out. Let them initiate, like the issue of trying to veto that bill. At least we are aware that it stopped. We are aware that they've done something they're supposed to do. We are aware of their hiccups and the handicaps. But let them even start up something like this also.
All right, I am very sure the last has not been heard over this issue.
Very well.
This impasse between the Senate and the Inspector General of Police. Now, moving on now, The court, the Abuja Division of the Federal High Court, has nullified the suspension of Senator Ovie Omagige by the Senate. Omagige, the court, in a judgment by Justice Nnamdi Dingba, held that the reason the Senate adduced for suspending Omagige for 90 legislative days was unconstitutional. Let's quickly see that report. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Now, the judgment has taught everybody their responsibilities. They cannot exceed their duties. They cannot discipline a legislator for more than 14 days. And they must follow due process. That is what the judgment says. The implication is that the senator goes back to the Senate with immediate effect. The suspension was lifted and is entitled to all his entitlements, all his allowances.
Welcome back, and you're still watching Democracy and the Rule of Law. And now we're discussing the court judgment on Ovie Omagige's suspension. The court noted that the Ethics and Privileges Committee of the Senate recommended that Omagige should be suspended to punish him for instituting legal action against the Legislative House. Justice Dingba held that while the Senate has the power to sanction its erring members to protect its integrity, it has no institution or authority. Okay, he said that no institution or authority has the power to strip any citizen his right of access to the court, and so many others. Barrister Amun, I know the Senate has appealed this particular notification, but we can just talk about it. Yes. Did you see this coming, this particular judgment?
Sure. I saw it coming because actually some of our lawyers argue that the Senate does not even have the power to suspend. And I said no. The Senate has the power to suspend. You see, the Constitution has only made provision for the recall of a National Assemblyman, Senator or House of Reps, but it has not made provision for the suspension, for the discipline of any erring member. It is the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act and the rules governing both the Senate and the House of Representatives that make provision for the internal regulation of the behavior of members. And so if you now say that if the Senate or the National Assembly does not have the power to suspend a member, how would they be able to regulate? To punish the members. So the National Assembly has the power to punish the members. But the reason for the punishment is an issue here. You see, you cannot. In fact, the law, the Constitution gives every Nigerian, the right no matter who you are, the right to access to court. That is one thing that even during military regimes, they tried their best to curtail the right of access to court. But the lawyers will always find a way out to ensure that even the judges, they will interpret the law to show that every individual has the right to access the court. And so if somebody has, like Omo Ogege now, had taken the Senate to court, and the Senate feels bad and says, you should not have taken us to court, it's wrong. It's a wrong step that they had taken. And so, although they have the powers, I agree with the judgment of the court, although they have the power to punish erring members, but they cannot punish somebody for approaching the court against whosoever.
All right, Barrister Nwokedi, what do you think?
Yes, my colleague had just said it. The internal rules should be respected. They have the powers to have the internal rules governing the House, governing the National Assembly. After when the issue of the emergence of this current leadership of the Senate came up, what saved them was the adherence to the internal rules. Yes. It's adherence to the internal rules. That was why no court was able to quash the emergence of Saraki Ekweremadu, even when it was against the opinion or approval of the party. But it was the same Senate rules that made them to skip whatever legal implication or that might get them hooked. So now if they still rely on that same internal rules to suspend, suspension does not mean absolute deprivation of the electoral powers of a member of National Assembly. Like my colleague rightly said, it's only recall that will totally remove that powers from you. Yes. What I'm saying that because you didn't comply with the existing laws of the Senate, we are giving you so and so days not to be with us, after which you can come back to us, serve as a deterrent to whoever that might want to toe the same line of action that you've actually decided to embark upon. Now, the issue must fall within the rules. The issue they canvass for suspending is what the court found quite laughable by going to court. If it has been by being unruly, if it has been by being rebellious, if it has been by breaching the rules of the Senate, if it has been by other overt acts that contravenes the rules of the Senate, they can suspend him, and it will hold. It will hold. Because if we begin to look at the Constitution does not contain all the laws in the land. The only thing the Constitution says at Section 3 is that if any law is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, that law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be found null and void and of no effect. It does not say that every law. You see, it's only the ones that are not consistent. So if a law is consistent with the Constitution, although it may not be in Constitution, but it was by enabling act or by act supported by the Constitution, then that law is valid. Quite very, very valid. It's only when it is in contravention with the Constitution. So anybody arguing that Senate has no power to suspend, should go and read his laws well.
Sorry, that the judge noted that whereas Section 67 subsection 4 of the Senate Standing Rules 2014 and Section 21 subsection 2 of the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act okay the suspension of any area members for 14 legislative days, the Senate went ahead and handed Omagege 90-day suspension. The suspension of the plaintiff for 90 days, according to the judge, is ultra vires of powers of the first defendant, that is the Senate, the court held, adding that any suspension of a member of the Senate which exceeds 14 days is null and void and unconstitutional. How do you...
Yes, that was we have said. It must be in line with the rules, internal rules. The 90 days has no place in the law of the Senate.
Okay.
So they can suspend it for 14 days. After 14 days, they extend the suspension for another 14 days. After 14 days, they can extend the suspension. They keep on extending it.
But not 90 days straight.
Not 90 days straight. That's why they don't. I don't know whether they have smart lawyers. After 14 days, instead of you to leave the suspension, extend it to another 14 days. Keep on extending it until when you are sure he has become
still amend that particular
he has become remorseful, or they will amend the act to give him larger powers for 90 days, for even the whole year, whatever period they might deem fit. After we have seen it in so many areas, we've seen it in even our magistrate court now. They have a small claim cost. Yeah. They have bigger claim. They are amending. They have it was 250 to 10 million to this and that. They keep on as things change with things. That time they had that 14 days. It might be when people were behaving very well.
Very well.
When senators were behaving well. Now senators were becoming...
And it was never anticipated.
Yeah, the senators will become campaign managers in the Senate, started having opposition and pro and anti-Senate and anti-president and anti-whatever. Doing all sorts of ridiculous things. Abandoning the major issue that brought them to the Senate, which is making the laws and representing their senatorial districts. Going back periodically to their various senatorial districts, to brief them of what has transpired at the National Assembly. Not even when I see senators competing with governors in projects, House of Assembly putting ridiculous street lights or whatever, borehole. I say, is that their powers? Is that what they have to do? Your power is to make laws, interpret the laws, repeat the laws, and represent your people.
But they have constituency,
allowance and all those stuff.
I think that is what they spend the constituency allowance.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That constituency allowance, it has nothing to do with the primary call of their duty. That's just the issue. So because of that, now we have seen that many people are finding their ways into the Senate. So that law should be extended.
It's because of the allowances they collect here. It's because of you see the issue of 14 days, 90 days. It's like the present Senate has constituted. They embark on that voyage of discovery. primarily to intimidate a good citizen of Nigeria who has access to the law court. However, the issue of the suspension being set aside by the court, fine. Even though there's an appeal lodged in respect of say,
yes,
the order of the court becomes valid. That doesn't stop the man from going back to the Senate.
The Senate has also filed for a stay of execution.
Let the stay of execution be taken. When it is taken, then we will hear what would the court will pronounce.
Okay.
So because merely filing stay of execution does not automatically act as a stay. It doesn't. It doesn't. Okay. So, but however, even though they file stay of execution, with the way the case is being handled from the inception, I think the same approach will be adopted at the appellate court. If same approach is adopted at the appellate court within this month or next, I think it will be laid to rest. Obviously, it will be laid to rest.
I think
and within the 90 days they mentioned, everything would have been buried up to the apex court. So if it is buried less than the 90 days, the man becomes what? He becomes a victor.
You see,
the National Assembly should stop wasting our resources to be pursuing a dead case on arrival.
They want to harass the man. You see, the court always decides issues based on what is placed before the court. Yeah. Because I don't know the lawyers that represented the National Assembly, because I read it in the rules some time ago that depending on the gravity of the offense, that the committee that is set up to investigate can recommend up to 90 days. I have read it in the rules governing the Senate. Okay. So I think maybe it was a section that decides on 14 days that was cited. And then the one that decides on the issue of moving it up to 90 days was never brought before the court, you understand, and to the notice of the court. And that is why the court now based its own decision on what was before the court. But I don't think that there is no provision for the number of days that was recommended. It's there in the rules.
But the issue is this: for a bona fide legislator to have approached a court of law, then comes back to the Senate, you now say you suspend him based on that. It's embarrassing. Look at it from on a layman perspective. It's embarrassing. That means the Senate, the Privileges Committee, they are usurping the power of the court. They are telling the senator that you don't have right to court.
Something led to that. You know, the senator, he pleaded with the Senate. He apologized to the Senate. Yeah. And we are at the verge of allowing the whole thing to die down. Only for him to now rush to court. I think he was before a committee. He has apologized. Yes. And they've almost waived the whole thing for him. So this matter is before us. And they have come to apologize. And we're looking at it, trying to quash the whole thing and allow you to stay.
But their body language
for you now to act, only for you now to abandon what you have before us and then rush to court again to tell order of court. It's ridiculous.
He can do that when their body language may not favor him.
Body language is not official. Body language is not official because he came to the Senate.
We were not at the committee.
He pleaded with them. He apologized. And they have not told him they're not accepting his apologies. They've not made any pronouncement on that apology.
Yes. But the law says when you foresee that your right is about to.
But he has not apologized. Have they made a comment on the apology?
And you see, if their decision to suspend him was based on the fact that brought him before the committee, it would have been different. They based it on the fact of going to court.
Yes. That was where they erred.
That's where the court said, no, you cannot do that.
You cannot stop anybody from going to court. Yes. No, you cannot stop anybody.
All right, the Senate has appealed the notification of that particular
suspension.
So filed for a stay of execution.
They want to conclude that 90 days by buying time.
All right, so we'll see how issues unfold.
Smart lawyers like
All right, you're still watching Democracy and the Rule of Law, and now away from the Senate and the IGP and the Senate and Senator Omo Agege. Let's discuss some politics. The rescheduled APC Ward Congresses, it was held yesterday, and well, a whole lot happened. Okay, in at least 7 states, factions elected parallel executives during yesterday's All Progressives APC local government congresses. There were parallel congresses in Enugu, Kogi, Ondo, Zamfara, Bayelsa, Kwara, and Abia. And in Enugu, for example, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, Special Assistant to the President on Judicial Reviews, Juliet Ibekaku, and the Director General, Voice of Nigeria, Osita Okechukwu, emerged as delegates, but they were elected from parallel congresses of the Udi Local Government Council. And then also, I saw that of Imo State too. It was marred by protest, and I don't think it's actually took place at the end of the day. Barrister Monan, did you, last week you know what happened in some states, in Ekiti, in Oyo, where there was a clash, many people were wounded, just name it. Did you see all this crisis stemming out from a World Congress, especially from the ruling All Progressives Party, Congress rather? Did you see it coming?
Very well. Judith, you see, I'm really disappointed. I must say that it is very, very unfortunate to have this kind of scenario playing out at this early stage of our electionary. You see, it is a pointer to what we are going to experience in 2019. If what ordinarily just getting somebody to represent you at the grassroots, at the ward level, at the local government level, is what people are killing others for. In Lagos, I heard that somebody was killed and all that. And it's very, very unfortunate.
Very sad.
How can a sitting government, a party that is in power, not be able to produce, to handle issues concerning the election, the getting out representatives from the grassroots? If the party is unable at that level, it means that the party cannot be seen to be able to handle any crisis if it gets to the national level. And if care is not taken, this same thing will play out to influence several other levels of elections, from the local government to the state and to the national. It will play out. And once you have parallel congresses taking place, it means that you are bringing several heads, knock them together, and expect them to fight to finish, which is very unfortunate. At the end of the day, you might still see the president coming out to say one or two things, because it's unfortunate, I have to say it again and again, that the president seems not to be in charge of what is going on. It is very, very unfortunate. If it were somebody that is in charge, just call all of them to order, make a pronouncement, in fact, ensure that your instruction is, or order is carried out. That is the purpose of somebody that is given the duties to administer, to take care of people of a country. But in a situation that things like this happen, and you will never hear anything from the presidency, and in fact what you will hear is the next moment now, Additional will come out, sorry to mention his name, to say that what you saw there was not parallel congresses, it was a situation that people just came together, that they have resolved it, there was no violence and all manner of things. When you have seen it, and then the next moment, Lai Mohammed will come up and say that we have resolved everything, there is no problem at all in APC, APC is one and all that stuff. When people are angry, some people are angry there, some people are fuming, some people are even going to kill because of what has happened. And you are saying that there's nothing wrong, the place is peaceful and all that and all that. I respect what happened in Ekiti, because when I heard that there was no more violence and all that, I said, thank God. But yes, they have been able to get somebody to come out as the candidate for the governorship position. And then the other party, I was informed, also congratulated this one. I don't know whether that was, there is a way you laugh with your teeth open, and when it's mechanical. So I never can tell whether it was from his side. But what happened is that there was no violence in Ekiti, and so yes, it's commendable.
And also, according to reports, it was very peaceful in Abia State.
Okay, Abia State too.
Yes.
Good.
All right. Barrister Okedi, we have parallel congresses in some states, in Kogi, in Ondo, Kwara, with most of all these factions, each faction actually saying my own faction is the authentic. You know, you laying credence to the fact that my own faction is the genuine faction. What is the implication of all this? And did you see all this in your own personal view? Did you see all these parallel congresses? Did you see it coming? Did you foresee it for the All Progressive Congress?
We know it will come because...
how did you know it will come?
I know it will come. I'm sure I knew. Well, we have even said that while we are discussing indirectly. When you have issues at the presidency between DSS and the police and NIA and whatever, and the president will not come out to issue directives. It's a situation that power is not emanating from a particular source. Everybody is power to his own. That was why Lawal Babachir made one say, which presidency? That question he asked, that statement is still what is causing all these problems. Which presidency? So now, people assume authority on their own. And if you consider what is going on now in APC, APC is like a sheep without a shepherd. Because the current national chairman of APC, Oyegun, is standing with one leg. He's going, and the incoming one, the speculative incoming one, maybe Oshomola or whoever, is not yet on the seat also. So it's like, I'm leaving this after all. In a few months, I will no longer be the chairman. So what's my interest? Whatever they want to do, then go ahead and do it. This one, I'm not yet on the saddle. I can't dictate. I like what the governor was saying because he was against tenure elongation. That was why they hijacked the machinery of the party from his own state as a governor. Imagine you are a governor under a ruling party and chairman of Progressive Governors Forum and the vocal and whatever governor talking and then crying wolf that the party structure was hijacked from him because he couldn't support tenure elongation. What message are you getting from that? And again, one pathetic thing also is the fact that we don't grow in Nigeria. We don't grow. We always have this mindset that any party in power is always the party to go and kill and die for. Because we believe in federal might. We believe once you are in a ruling party, federal might will be used to rig election for you. Federal might will be used to do this or do that for you. Therefore, once any party is in power, in less than 1 or 2 or 3 years, you see everybody rushing to that party, everybody trying to exercise authority. And again, another problem we have again is federal powers, federal boys, Abuja boys. Abuja boys has been a terror since the time of Obasanjo. I remember vividly in my state, Emeka Fan, the Mbadnuju and the rest of them, and the Oba family and the governor of Chris Ngige. These are Abuja boys terrorizing the governor. Terrorizing people at the state level will fight and build their party, build their structure, go for meetings and do everything. At the 9 minute, Abuja boys will come in and come with a police escort, come with SARS, come with Mopo, come with DSS, come with everybody, start changing everything at the tail end of the Congress. And at the end of the day, they will have their way. That is how we are destroying democracy. They will not go there during the time they were going for local village meetings. They will not be there. When they are struggling to have Congress, have meetings to build up the party to go.
At the grassroots.
At grassroots, they will not come. Towards election, they will come down from Abuja with war chest, with federal might and federal money. Because they are all serving. They don't even resign their appointments. It's wrong. They go there to exhibit their powers and then intimidate people. And then people at local level, though they always lose. Yes, they always lose. They will now start trying to exert their own authority. We are in control. We have been here. Why should you come and hijack it? The fracas will come up. Fracas will come up. Look at that of Imo State. It's the serving governors there. It's the whole post of them that joined recently, and the other senator against the governor. Go to the one of Fayemi is the only Southwest VP of APC, and Fayemi a minister, and Babafemi Ojodu a senator, causing trouble there. Go to River State. It's Ameti, a minister. It's Abe, a senator. It's the other one. One senator that was the other one that was called granted. Causing trouble there. You know, these are Abuja boys, and the presidency will not caution them. Go to Enugu, I just mentioned. There are 2 people there, advisor to the president, the VOM, Voice of Nigeria, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, causing trouble there. In every state you go to, you always see Abuja boys causing trouble. And these Abuja boys hardly go home to interact with people. They hardly go home to integrate into the local politics there. They only come home and they don't even harmonize their interests. They'll come with different interests. This one will have his own interest, this one will have his own interest, the other one will have his own interest. And Anambra State during time of PDP, it played out. And the bar will come his own interest. The other people will come their own interest. Governor will come his own interest, and he will come his own interest. Even in Anambra presently, it happened again. He come as a minister with his own interest. He was almost lynched. They beat up the person that came with him from Abuja. Yeah, so the former, the man in the House of Press.
It was on the news last week.
Yeah, former aspirant during the election, Tony Nwoye, came with his own interest too, as an honorable member.
What was the implication of all this? And how does this signify that these people who are doing everything possible to clinch power are actually doing this for the people? Is it to serve?
They are not. Nobody is going to serve anybody in Nigeria. We have not come to that level. Let us stop deceiving ourselves. They are massaging their ego. They are adding to their profile. They are serving their pockets and their money. Yes. Because if you offer yourself for service, it's a kind of a voluntary something. Sure. I remember, for goodness sake, I contested an election in school. When I went out for office of the governor of my hostel, one of the largest social universities in Nigeria, I told them if I'm voted good, if I'm not, I just want to fulfill that requirement that people have been telling me to go and contest election. You have been disturbing me because I block AMO to school as a student. Say you have been making noise everywhere in school, talking about policy. I had an NGO. They said go and contest and go and change it. After they, I said, okay, let me go and contest. You know, my friend said, Joe, why? I said, they've been disturbing me since I've been criticizing everybody everywhere. Why not? I said, let me go and let them vote me out. I'll come back and continue what I'm doing. And unfortunately, they couldn't vote me out. I said, let them vote me out. So I was now saying, hey, I've offered myself and rejected me. Now I'll continue what I'm doing. I said, okay, on that ground, go. Let them vote you out. Then you come back. Not that's what politics should be.
All right.
For yourself.
All right, Barrister Modili, now when a party, actually the ruling party, cannot successfully, peacefully hold ward congresses at the grassroots level, what do you think this indicates, especially as we approach the 2019 general elections?
You see what happened about the ruling party APC is that it's a house from the congresses just done. It pretends that it's a house divided against itself. Now, and it is a signal for the organizers of the incoming 2019 election to put in place more security measures and to probably carry out more enlightenment programs so that the citizens will be aware of what to do and what ought not to be done. Then aside from that, they should affiliate with the security agencies with a view to ensure that peace reigns during the election. Now, looking at what happened in the just concluded congresses, it shows that the people so-called Abuja boys by my colleague.
So named.
Then he called them Abuja boys. I do call them my Tama boys.
Okay.
You know, that is their base there. Now, the Abuja or my Tama boys and the local boys. You see, when the Abuja people come and meet the village people or the local people, they claim to be richer than the local people. They share the money and they share whatever they have. In the process of doing that, they even share more than one another. You may share 20,000.
Themselves.
Yes. This one may share 1 million. That is where the crisis started from. That is the genesis of the crisis. Now, looking at what I read in the paper, and I think I see a preview of it in the television, I think it's Ekiti last week or thereabout.
Yeah, it's Ekiti.
Now, the issue of money back politics came into being.
Some stakeholders complained about that.
Which actually made some of the contestants to be annoyed. And some of the delegates were also infuriated that led the whole place to a pandemonium. Now, but to guide against this, be it the police, the security defense corps, the DSS, the custom, immigration, name it, there should be synergy amongst them with a view to ensure that peaceful election is conducted in 2019. Without that, I wonder what will come out of it. But I believe it is a signal to the #1 citizen of the country to put in place a security paraphernalia with a view to make sure that the country is not thrown into a war front. So because I think, was it yesterday? I just on my phone, I saw it, all this online media. I saw somewhere, I think Dokwemo or Agege, that somebody was shot dead based on the fact that maybe they were holding meeting or congress or blah blah. I look at it and say, where are we going to? Because I wanted to exercise my civic right, I get there, all of a sudden you shoot me. For what? So that can act as a discouragement for intending voters. That I would like go there to vote when
I'm not sure of my safety.
Yeah, safety. Yes. So I believe the one they have done yesterday, if it is true, the one that happened yesterday, if it is true in Agege or Dokwemo, whatever they call it, it's a signal to the #1 citizen of this state to ensure that such a thing does not occur again. Right. Because it is a bad record on the part of the party. As it is now, it will give the opposition party an opportunity to strategize on how to capture and defeat the ruling party. Yes, and I believe I read something similar to it. I think 39 political or 35 political parties, they are now trying to march together with a view to make sure that the APC is thrown out of office. If that is achieved, to God be the glory. If it is not achieved, to God be the glory.
That's the difficult thing.
It's a win-win for you.
You see, the youth are the people that are actually causing what is going on, the mayhem. And I want to advise any youth that is given inducement to go and cause chaos, to go and fight, should collect the money, put it in his pocket and go to sleep. Yes. It is wrong for the politicians to continue to use this youth, and at the end of the day, they say that the youths are lazy, they are not able to do anything and all that of their own. They can only kill for them. It is wrong. So the youth should take it upon themselves. Don't ever do the bidding of any politician. If a politician approaches you, pretend that you are going to help him. Collect the money, disappear from there. And if he cannot get any other youth to come after you, then at the end of the day, the politician will become wise. So we have to take into consideration the fact that if we don't continue to do it, we don't continue to make ourselves available to cause chaos, to cause violence and all that, before you know it, the thing will abate.
Yes. It's a vicious circle.
Very well. And so if a politician is looking for somebody who is going to cause problem for him, and then he goes to meet some group of guys, and then you say, okay, I'm going to collect, how much? You bring millions, you pocket it, just tell your friends, go to somewhere else and relocate. The politician would not see anywhere to.
He won't even arrest you.
No, he cannot, because it's an illegal thing. So he cannot. The only thing he would do, because I know politicians are vicious, the only next thing he will do is to look for somebody else that will kill you. And in the process, if there is no other person that will make himself available, then the whole thing will stop. Right. So that is my advice. Right. It is the youth that should stop this carnage.
All right, Barrister Nwokedi, what can others, aside the youth, what can other stakeholders do about this whole issue of violence in politics, and in this particular case, inter-party crisis?
I think what they should do is to strengthen party constitution, party rules. You know, we're having something similar to that during our elections, so the gubernatorial elections. But when God started throwing some governors out of office, they learned their lessons. I've been in a high-profile meeting where we are discussing how to sponsor somebody to election, office of the governor. And someone was saying, whichever way we want, let him just win. Someone says, no, I cannot put my money after 3 months to throw him out. I can't stake billions and after 3 months or 6 months call to throw him out. You know, a high-profile political meeting at Ikoya was privileged to be there. And one of them said, I can't bring in millions. And after 3 or 4 or 5 months call to throw him out. I will not be a party to that. Whatever we want to do, must take cognizance of the fact that the other party may go to court. The other party may go to court and he may be thrown out. You don't want to say it doesn't want to say it matters because they have thrown out so many governors. I am not ready to stake my money and at the end of the day, call to throw someone out. So what we have been clamoring for strengthening of political structure, political parties in Nigeria. If this issue of people jumping from one party to the other should be looked into, and then each party should evolve strong constitution, strong rules that will guide the conduct of the election. And then if such a rule is breached, the aggrieved party can go to court. Court can nullify the Congress. It seems that this Congress and local government election is the home of impunity now in Nigeria. It has reduced the level of gubernatorial election and presidential election or whatever. The Congresses and local government election is where we have mother of impunities now reside in Nigeria. And the court should step in there. They should strengthen the rules so that once you emerge, even gubernatorial election, once some people emerge as a candidate of their parties, and court nullified them. So let the same thing be applicable in these Congresses.
All right.
So at least they'll stop wasting the lives of the people.
Yes. The bulk all stops at the court of law.
When and people are approaching the court.
Courts
cannot come down
cannot come to you.
And say, come.
You have to approach the court of law.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for staying with us on today's edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law, where we did discuss the Senate declaring the IGP an enemy of democracy and unfit to hold public office, and also the court judgment on the suspension of Senator Ovie Omagege, as well as the rescheduled APC World Congresses. Thank you for staying with us on the program, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, my name is Judith Renwa. Do join us 3 to 4:30 next week, Sunday. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for watching.
Like you've never seen before.
Nollywood Worldwide Entertainment, in conjunction with Galaxy Television and the Fashion Designers Association of Nigeria FEDAN, presents
the Nigerian Television Fashion Show, NTFS. Theme is
Vogue Collections. 25 top designers will be showcasing, which include
Areba Couture,
Modella Couture,
Olabode Couture Cotonou,
Abbas Bello Couture,
Michael Allen David Collections in Ghana,
Prince Class Couture,
Ugly Face Wears,
Top Eve Creations,
Tonics World Benin,
Simi Fashion International,
Muse Abibat,
Shadows and Style,
Ipolowo.com,
Apex Clothing,
Kingsmen Clothiers,
Azabili Fashion Institute,
FJ Couture,
Tula Clothing,
Silky Afro,
Any Cards,
Yanni Collections,
TJL Signatures,
Formi Coutures,
Bell Signatures,
and Dress Booth Collections.
45 mothers strutting the runway, and your host, award-winning comedy radio show presenter, The Dawn and Galaxy Television, G's Extra Finest, Chinyan.
Side attractions include music performance with praise, comedy, and dance.
Date 20th May 2018.
Venue is Yabon 5 Kudrota Biolaway, Red Keja, Lagos.
Red carpet 1 p.m. and show kicks off at